Today, we're going to talk about history and how that has become one of my favorite genres. Literally, historical fiction is where it's at. Let's get into it. So, let's talk about how historical fiction became one of my favorite genres. If you asked me a few years ago what genres I read the most, historical fiction would be at the bottom of that list. I don't even know if historical fiction would even be on that list. However, it is now on the list, and I'm super excited to be in the historical fiction land. Somewhere along the journey, I fell in love with stories that transport me to another time zone, while also reminding me just how much I actually like history and how much the past still shapes our present. What I love most about historical fiction is that it brings history to life. Facts and dates can tell us what happened, but stories help us to really understand how people viewed the world and how people lived, how they loved, how they survived, and most importantly, how they resisted. Historical fiction allows us to connect with the humanity behind the history. So it's more than just a history lesson. And let's be honest, history is important because it's also messy. It's filled with trials and tribulations, triumphs and tragedies, progress and setbacks, joy and pain. And sometimes it's uncomfortable. Sometimes these stories are just sad. Sometimes it challenges what we thought we knew. But that's exactly why I think I love historical fiction. And I have a few recommendations if you're really trying to get into historical fiction that I will share. Okay, so I said we were going to actually talk about some of my favorite historical fictions. So let's kind of go through some of these. These are the ones I usually recommend to other people to kind of get their foot wet. And this is not everything. I literally have about 2 or 3 shelves behind me with historical fiction books on them because I love historical fiction so much. But I'm going to quickly go through these books and let me know if you read any of these. First up, we have Bitter and Sweet by Rhonda Mcknight. This story follows 2 sisters and their return to their hometown after something is going on with the family. We do get like a dual timeline. So not only are we seeing what's going on with the 2 sisters, but we also get to see kind of what's going on in the past. And we get to see how both of those stories connect. I will say this is a good book because y'all know we love food and it has a lot of food references in it. Next, we have The Filling Station by Vanessa Miller. This book is also about 2 sisters. These 2 sisters were around with the Black Wall Street over in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Once everything was destroyed, they are just trying to pick up the pieces. This story I highly recommend, especially if you want to learn more about that time period. Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. This is a classic, but this story does deal with coming of age as well as just trials and tribulations and trying to find your purpose in life. It's a classic, so regardless, this one should be on your shelf, at least your TBR. This next one is one of my all-time favorites by Beverly Jenkins. This is Indigo. Anything Beverly Jenkins writes, you should check it out. But this is Indigo, and this book is a love story, a historical love story that I absolutely love down. You have to pick this book up just so you can see how he wooed her and how your man probably should be wooing you, even though some of the stuff may not apply in 2026, but I still loved it. Up next, we have With Love from Harlem by ReShonda Tate. And we talked about historical fictions being messy. This was definitely one of the messy ones. So this book follows Hazel Scott, who is a musician. Hazel is swept off her feet by Adam Clayton Powell Jr. And this is just the story of them. This book is messy. and you definitely have to pick it up to see how it ends. I also highly recommend James by Percival Everett. This is like a retelling of the adventures of Huckleberry Finn. And this book shows it from a different perspective. You absolutely loved that we got to see that perspective. And I ate this book down. I definitely highly recommend reading this book. Also, another historical fiction that I recommend is Fire, Sword, and Sea by Vanessa Riley. This book showed me that there were Black pirates. And even further, there were Black female pirates. So, this book shows you that journey of a Black female pirate and everything that she was up against. But she was famous. And so, we have to make sure that we highlight her name in the history books. Last but not least, The American Queen by Vanessa Miller. This book follows Luella and her husband William, and they became the self proclaimed king and queen of a place called Happy Land. This book showed us that we had kings and queens. And I'm not talking about like ancient Egypt times. I'm talking about 1869. These two did so much in building community, and this is definitely one of those that you have to check out. Those are just a handful of historical fiction books that I would recommend, and some of the books that really stuck with me long after I closed the book. So, yes, historical fiction has officially become one of my favorite genres, and I'm always recommending historical fiction to others to add to their TBR. Heck, my TBR keeps growing because of it. So, tell me about a book that you would recommend that falls in the historical fiction category. Also, make sure that you are still following along with the Black BookTube is Reading content creators. Go check out what they post today. And until next time, guys, happy reading.